Hello, it's author and attorney Kelly O'Connell of Knockout Podcasts. Hope you're well. How you doing today? Well, I've been working on an idea for quite a while, and I want to throw it towards you for you see what you think. The first one I haven't written about yet, but it's the idea that all of this stuff the left has done for the past 5, 10, 20, 30 years adds up to an attack on free speech and liberty, and is done in such a way that the little parts make sense, but the big parts put together, like being woke, like being into critical race theory or whatever, the parts when you put them all together don't make any sense. That's one thing I'm going to write an article on. But the other one is that in the last week, Biden hasn't just completely lost his mojo. He hasn't lost his je ne sais quoi, or whatever they call it, the kind of cool that makes somebody attracted to another person. He has, in fact, completely blown up whatever myth that he once had about himself and has exposed himself as a complete fool. And not only that, but as an unwise person who doesn't care about others, doesn't care about their suffering. He doesn't have any feel for honor or duty or loyalty. It doesn't mean anything to him. He's going to do whatever is convenient. And the problem is, when you're 80 years old, what's convenient to you is different than when you're 50 or even 70. I mean, the difference is if you're kind of lost your marbles, then all you're looking for is comfort and the easy way out, and taking naps and not really getting challenged too much. And if people disagree with you, then flying off the handle is very much par for the course. Well, I've got this article that I just wrote. I'm going to put it on Canada Free Press, and they're out of Toronto. And I've been writing for them for about 10 years. Or probably 12 years. I am going to put out there this idea that the time of making fun of Trump is over, because even whatever Trump's shortcomings they are, and just like anybody else, he's got shortcomings, and some of his are very they're very exposed because he's been out in the open for so much. But they're nothing like Biden's disinterest in other people's suffering and dying, of treating a friend disloyally. You might say, well, Trump has done that a million times. I don't know about that. I mean, I do see where if one of Trump's friends gets in trouble, he doesn't always come to their aid, but I think that's a different issue. What Biden did is he just completely walked away from friendships and international relationships that are so precious. There's a lot of countries in the world that nobody would ever help them if they were in dire necessity. And we've been able to, time and again, ask for our friends to help us because we're such a noble and generous and great group of people. But now Joe Biden decided, by some whim, by some instinct, by some kind of slug-like desire to be destroyed, that we were just going to give up our friends. We didn't even tell them that we were leaving. Now, if I told you that the Taliban had said to Joe, you can have the city, you can have Kabul, we'll stay outside of it, and Joe said, don't worry about it, what would that make you think? That's about along the lines of somebody that gives away a list of people that are important so the Taliban know who's the most valuable individuals for the United States and go kill them all. So Biden has some really terrible, terrible, terrible instincts. And these instincts have come out now that he's lost his concentration, his decision-making ability. All he has left is instincts, and his instincts are all bad. So let me get to this story real quick here. Hey, and let me tell you just one more thing that is really interesting. I think that there is this catch-22 that the Democrats are in. Now, I've heard somebody say they're going to let Joe Biden make all these mistakes up to the midterms and then dump Biden and blame everything on him. And here's the real truth. The left either knew about Joe Biden's mental diminishment or they didn't. Now, of course they did. You don't have to yell at me. Easy there, easy. But you have to see from a practical standpoint, they either knew about his diminished mental capacity or they didn't. If they did, they can blame everything on him, but it looks terrible. It's an act of a coup. It's an act of disloyalty to the Constitution. Now, if they didn't know that he was mentally unfit, why did they, when they realized he was doing crazy things, why didn't they intervene? Why didn't they go use the 25th Amendment to get rid of this guy? And the answer is they really couldn't because of Kamala. And also because Joe was somebody to hide behind. He's so pompous. He's so sure of himself, even in the midst of really not knowing even which direction to walk in or even what's going on around him, because he's always been a cocky person. And if you think about the number of secrets this guy has hidden, not the least of which is his son Hunter and all the money that he's grafted all and siphoned out of different countries, and now, of course, he's making modern art and making a killing. So they are damned if they do, if they're damned if they don't. If they say, well, I guess he's always been that way, then the question is, why in the hell did you run this idiot? What are you trying to do? That's a coup. But if you claim that, on the other hand, I guess it's kind of a three-way thing. If you claim that he's not mentally handicapped, then he's got to be impeached. And if he's impeached, it's a terrible, terrible stain on the party to have him removed. Now, it just seems like he's screwed up so many times. He's got such bad instincts. And somebody ran an article, and the article is, Biden has always been an evil person. And I read that and I thought, you know what? That's really true. He's always had terrible instincts. But you see now how they're exposed. He is a person who doesn't care about suffering. He doesn't care about lying, stealing, cheating, whatever. He's the perfect politician because he can get up and project himself constantly as being a good guy, but deep down he doesn't have any of the instincts to do it. All right, so here's your article. Mindless criticizing of Trump makes no sense after Joe Biden's collapse. And that's the heart of the matter. By the way, could you join the channel? Could you push subscribe? And would you give me a thumbs up? And give me some comments, by the way. None of these podcasts seem to have any comments. And I feel like, excuse me, a little allergies out there. I feel like I'm working hard to get controversial ideas and something that you can kind of rally to, and yet there's very little commentary. So anyway, I suppose that's my problem. But mindless criticizing of Trump makes no sense after Joe Biden's collapse. And here's my ultimate point. It doesn't even make sense anymore to go after Trump. Now we see it's totally exposed that going after Trump was a hoax. And every time the Democrats do it now, if they go and work on their January 6th thing, like this idiot Pelosi is always working on this counter theory that she's going to try to trick people into. She's like somebody who lives in a swamp and is always putting attractive things by the edge of the swamp so that people will go down there to look at them and fall in, and then she can rob them blind to get pulled out. But she's 80 years old. She's not really like anybody else that age. She is not as the person she was mentally in the past, and I think she's really deluded now. She thinks, she's ignoring Afghanistan. She says she's got faith in Joe. That would be, to me, like saying you had faith in John Wayne Gacy or Jeffrey Dahmer. What sense does it make when somebody's exposed as a monster to go and say, I've got their back? That's stupid. In other words, Pelosi's stupid and she thinks everybody else around her is even dumber than she is. Now, comparing Joe to Trump would be like suggesting Liberace is the heir to Bach. It just is absurd. Now, the 900-pound gorilla in the room, bearing in mind all the crazy recent news, my dear friends, let's tackle that 900-pound gorilla in the room. It's the overwhelmingly obvious fact that the days of free-range attacks on Trump are officially over. Now, why? You're going to say, come on, Kelly. You can attack this guy till he's dead and then really go after him. And the answer is already stated, because no matter what your beef is with Trump, it could only be 1/1000th as bad as any of the several dozens of horrible mistakes by decrepit Joe Biden, pretender-in-chief. Lurching around like a mortally sprayed cockroach, Biden can barely pay attention long enough to order a cheeseburger. Worse, he's too old to hide his evil instincts anymore. Joe hates America. He's always been evil. It's hard to believe, but anybody can put on a smiley face, especially if you have your teeth bolted on. Have you noticed the man has no gums? I'm not kidding. There's got to be a name for that condition, but it can't be a sign of good health. Now, Donald J. Trump, or DJT Trumps Biden. So the left will eventually embrace the fact that simply to conjure up Trump's name is to immediately diminish Joe Biden. That's my theory. Like using a high-tech military searchlight to expose a newborn baby cockroach. And my metaphor for Joe is he's a cockroach because he keeps on moving, he keeps on living no matter what happens to him, but he's completely mindless. He's going off instinct. Even Trump's shortcomings outshine any of Biden's strengths, as he has none, and I really mean that. What strengths does he have? He's loyal to Hunter. So what? He's not loyal to America. He's a dishonest person. He lies all the time. He's lied 1,000 times already about Kabul and about Afghanistan. He's lost. He's either his exposure, his age has exposed his great evil, or he's mentally ill. Those are the two choices. And that's the catch-22 that I was talking about. Now, dear friends, Trump exemplifies passion, excellence, results, and love of America. But Biden is filled with every greedy, menacing, dangerous, cowardly, and selfish instinct of human depravity. And let me put in there treasonous as well. And so he gives his son to us, a junior cockroach. He gives him carte blanche to plunder half the world for the Biden family business. Joe's age isn't a defense against these sins which were baked into the cape from inception. It's the old question. Is man born evil? Are individual people born evil or good? Esau I hated, Jacob I loved. Isn't that what the saying is? Now, Biden's Kabul week of betrayal. Consider in a swift week in Kabul, Biden capitulated America into desertion by stealth, betrayal, treason, while refusing to communicate with every ally until the desert Afghanistan die was cast. And leaving was a fait accompli. Joe abandoned our citizens and allies, left behind a kill list and biometric data exposing hundreds of thousands of Afghanis to certain death, secretly closed our massive airbase in Bagram, while simultaneously emptying a prison with 5,000 of Afghanis' worst criminals, donated $80 billion in state-of-the-art weapons to the Taliban, including 600,000 rifles, Black Hawk airships, 22,000 Humvees, 100 helicopters, and 4 massive C-130 transports. How in the hell do you leave behind these gigantic planes? Don't you need them? Amongst millions of other warfare donations. And I have a link in this article. Go click it and you'll see all the stuff they left behind. Open this at that same paragraph and look from 10 seconds to 35 seconds in and you'll see it. Now, Joe's gift to the Taliban. Why... If you have an enemy, why would you want to enrich them? Biden left Americans under protection of the Taliban while lying that only 350 remained. But don't you remember they originally said there were 40,000 Americans there? Now it's one or the other. And which one do you think is the truth? Because Biden lies. He lies like a rug. Satanically lies. Isn't Satan the father of lies? How many U.S. citizens are really left there, Joe? Now, many Americans and allies are trapped and will be slaughtered. They'll be like baby chickens throwing an electric cord into a little pond of baby ducks. The Taliban knows deranged Biden, having already given up an epic advantage, was an easy target. Joe, for some strange combination of reasons involving anti-Americanism, which his party has in spades, opposition to U.S. military, colonial guilt, even though we're not a colonial power, advanced decrepitude, his age, and whatever evil instincts he holds towards humans, acted treasonously in entirely surrendering our advantage. There was no reason for that. Now, the name Biden, what does it equal? It used to equal vice president. It used to equal a lot of other things, but now it equals failure. So how can anyone, even slithering reptilian Pelosi, claim Biden is objectively superior to John Trump? Yet Suicide Brigade Democrats only tried to eliminate Trump for 5 years by 1,000 paper cuts. You know, remember, every single broadcast had a Trump insult in it. Every politician, some of them on the right, mostly on the left, attacked Trump constantly. Trump's bona fides, his good works, include building our military, opening wide our oil reserves, closing our borders, growing our economy, and building a miraculously fast vaccine, etc. That's just scratching the surface, dear friends. Always loyal Trump. Does Trump have shortcomings? Of course he does. He's a little thin-skinned. I can identify with that. He is quick to come back with an insult, oftentimes very clever. I can identify with that too, although I don't claim to, I try to be entertaining, but I try not to insult my enemies too much. Anyway, no reason to give them extra motivation. Now, as astounding a fact as this may be, Biden was offered to keep Kabul by the Taliban, and he turned it down. That alone is worthy of impeachment, isn't it? Wouldn't be in this problem right now. Trump never sold out America, and for this reason alone, the name Trump must never be slandered again. While Joe Biden's moniker, his name is now coextensive with the worst treason, betrayal, and selling out friends to benefit enemies. Remember, given America's massive advantages in arms, tech, and soldiers, all Biden's decisions were by choice, not necessity. In other words, Joe Biden wished pure evil upon Afghanis and Americans in Kabul, and because of his demented decision-making, got exactly what he wished for. But why? What in the hell happened in this guy's life? He's been in the spotlight in his entire life. He's lived off the government teat, the largesse. Why does he hate America? But he obviously does, because he wants to leave a bunch of Americans exposed to the Taliban where they could easily get killed. Now, many will now pray mumbling Joe spend eternity in hell after his unforgivable treason and betrayal of America as commander-in-chief. And I would say, being maybe a little bit more sympathetic, pray for him, because he's going quick. And there's no second chance where I'm concerned on this. Anyway, Kelly O'Connell, great hanging out with you. I hope that you agree with me. I really hope that you agree that it is now absurd. It is absolutely absurd to attack Trump. And all these stupid claims of all the evil things that Trump did are just that. They're ridiculous. Anyway, let's get to our weird news. Okay, so here is your weird news. It's just one story, but it's so interesting. I thought I would focus on the whole thing. It involves a lady by the name of Shayna Hubers, and she was involved with a guy named Ryan Poston, who was a very ambitious guy. And she was in her young 20s, probably 18 or 19 when they started dating, and he was about 8 years older. And she had an argument with the boyfriend and then went over to his house. And this is in Ohio. She went and argued with the boyfriend and then ended up shooting him and killing him. And she shot him 4 or 5 times, I think, and once in the face and everything. And so she was never never sorry. She was never sorry about what she did. So they took her to trial, and they found her guilty. And it's very weird that when they had, this video of her, when they were confronting her, when the police were talking to her, and they went out of the room to talk amongst themselves, kind of a thing, and she got up and was walking back and forth and singing hymns. And it's just really bizarre. And I'm sorry, she's not from Ohio, was from Kentucky. This happened in Kentucky. And so she was convicted of murder, and then they found that there was a felon on the jury, and so they redid it. The first time she was convicted and sentenced to 40 years. The second time she was convicted of for life. And this is back in 2011, when Ryan Poston met a 19-year-old Shayna Hubers on Facebook, and they started dating. So she was sentenced to death in 2012, and it was really weird how she called up 9/11 after she'd shot him. And one of the things that she meant, she said he was abusive and was threatening her. But after she shot him, she said he was very vain and he always wanted a nose job. Well, I finally gave him that nose job. So she meant she shot him in the face, and that if he lived, he would be deformed. So if you can imagine that, she shoots him in the face and then talks about how she gave him a nose job. So anyway, there was a lot of outrage over this case, and Poston was a guy that went to the university and triple majored in history, geography, and political science, and he was an award-winning student. And then he went to law school at Salmon P. Chase College of Law in northern Kentucky, and he was working as an attorney. Well, he was back and forth with this girl. And then he met Miss Ohio USA 2012 Audrey Bolt, and was going out on a date with her. And Hubers found out about it and went over and confronted him. And they think that's why she killed her, because she was so jealous that she killed him. So anyway, she gets convicted, and she goes to jail. And some of the stories. Shayna Hubers would run around nude to get attention in prison, former cellmate says. And that they said she'd do a lot of stuff to get attention. And male inmates would come to that correctional facility, and she would come out there in a white tank top, no bra, and just in her panties. And so she... Then, and they had a show, Cellmates, where these people would kind of tell the stories that their cellmates would tell her. And one of the people noted that she had taken notes of the Jodi Arias case, preparing for her own murder trial. On Lifetime Cellmate Secrets, Shayna Huber, you can look that up. So she's getting notes from one of the most notorious killers. And she got married to somebody in jail, and there's a guy who's got a picture, and he's got kind of a 9 o'clock shadow, a little bit of a beard growth. Shayna Hubers married this guy who had become trans and was dressed up, but I mean definitely looks like a guy wearing lipstick and everything. And so she married Unique Taylor, and they were together for about a year, and then that didn't work out. And what I was wondering is, this Unique Taylor, who looks like a woman, looks like a transvestite actually, did they get together, and did Unique Taylor still have male genitalia? Because there's no one definition of this. So anyway, she's still in jail. She's still in prison. She could get out in 2032, and the family's pretty upset about that. So anyway, that's your weird news for the day. Shayna Huber, look her up. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Let's get a hold of our representatives. Your representative may not be much, mine may not be much, but we got to give them a shot and see if they will respond. There's a lot of angry Democrats out there. Although Nancy Pelosi has officially said she still has faith in Joe Biden, there's a lot of anger in the Democratic Party, and if we could kind of push some of it, maybe we can help get rid of this nut, Joe Biden. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoyed hanging out with you. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Kelly O'Connell, Knockout Radio. Ciao.